Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by for our live coverage on Tropical Storm Fred. I'm Chief Meteorologist Leslie Hudson. Just about 60 minutes ago, Tropical Storm Fred made landfall near Cape San Blas, Florida. As a strong tropical storm with winds at 65 miles an hour, it continues to bring in a lot of wind and storm surge across the Florida Panhandle. And over these next couple of minutes, we're going to try and get you updated and, of course, have ongoing coverage throughout the day today. So we always like to start with the MyRadar app, so that's what we'll go ahead and do. And I've got the path turned on, and I do have, of course, the warnings turned on where there is a tropical storm warning up for the Florida Panhandle, as well as a storm surge warning. So a couple of these things, again, if you just tap those, you'll see that the tropical storm warning, you can get the latest information from the National Hurricane Center here. If you tap on the storm surge warning, you can get the same thing, and you can also get the discussion from the National Hurricane Center. As I pinch this out just a bit, you can see the official path, which goes all the way up into the Atlantic seaboard pretty quickly into the mid-Atlantic states. So we're going to be talking about Fred not only today, but a big portion of this week. In fact, parts of the northeastern U.S. are anticipating some indirect impacts from Fred by the latter part of the week. It won't be anything tropical by then, but it is expected to bring in a lot of rain as we head through these next couple of days. So back down here, and let me turn the radar on. It looks like I've got that toggled off for some reason. But at any rate, you can certainly see that there has been a lot of activity here this morning. There's a look at the wind layer as well. Great feature to track tropical systems. It shows you the lines of equal winds, and so you can see how the center moved on shore a little ahead of schedule. The National Hurricane Center was thinking Fred was going to make landfall sometime around 6 p.m. local time, but again, making landfall around 2:15 local time near Cape San Blas in the Florida Panhandle, and there is still a fair amount of weather to deal with for the next several hours. So let's switch things over to the radar loop, and we'll take a look here. And you can see very nicely how it looked like a closed center of some type, which would indicate it was trying to maybe even get even a little stronger, become a Cat 1 hurricane. That did not happen, but you can certainly see in some of those frames that there was certainly an attempt here by Fred to try and get that low closed off and perhaps get a little stronger. The winds inside this particular cell are pretty significant. So let me do a little query here, and we'll take a look at some of the rain rates here in some of these larger cells. And again, some of these have been pretty significant in terms of rain rates. So we've already seen about 4 inches of rain in parts of the Florida Panhandle. Panama City in particular has been dealing with a lot of rain. Alligator Point got about to just under 4 inches. This particular one that I just toggled on near Panama City is about 1 3/4 inches an hour. So remember, these are putting down rain significantly as they train on top of each other. So localized flooding also going to be an issue. Let's go up a little northward here and see what the cell is. That'll be a little lighter. That's about 1/3 of an inch of rain an hour. And then let me take that one off, and let me zoom in just a bit more, and let's see just north of Panama City, because again, that's kind of been where most of the intense rain bands have been coming in. So I'm going to zoom way in, and we'll take another query here, and I want to do that little red line right there and see what we get in terms of rain rate. Yeah, so that's the one that was 1 3/4 inches. And then just near Youngstown as well, we're also getting the rain rate about the same. So that, again, puts down not only significant rains, but there's also significant winds inside these tropical bands as Fred moves inland. So here's a look at the live wind reports. These are the current wind gusts. Look at Apalachicola, a 68 mile per hour wind gust at this hour, 47 mile per hour gust in Panama City, about 31 in Destin, 33 in Mariana, 28 in Tallahassee, and over in Jacksonville, way far to the east, they have a gust at 32. So we've got some larger gusts coming on the outer periphery of Fred that should be pretty significant as we head through the next couple of hours. Let me take a quick look at the storm reports, because these are from the National Weather Service. So we got a storm report of a gust of 73 miles an hour. That's just 1 mile an hour shy of hurricane force strength. That was near southwest East Point. and that was reported within this last hour. In fact, about 50 minutes ago, there was a wind gust from WeatherStem, one of our partners. We're going to show you some cameras here in just a second. But then there was also a wind gust at St. Andrews, and that wind gust was at 55 miles an hour. We had a gust of 51 miles an hour reported in Panama City Beach, and then another gust of 64 miles per hour in Wakulla in Franklin County. So we've seen a fair amount of weather with Fred. If you were up to date on this over the weekend, and Matt, you can go ahead and show that live WeatherStem camera that we've got from Mexico Beach. I'll talk about this. You may have known that Fred dissipated on Saturday, lost all of its tropical characteristics. The Hurricane Center expected it to reorganize, and it did on Sunday, and then really rallied together, started to soak up that latent heat from the Gulf of Mexico, where the sea surface temperatures were in the mid to upper 80s, and got up to a very strong tropical storm. And again, we try not to split hairs whether these systems come in as tropical storms or Cat 1 hurricanes, because the storm surge and the weather hazards are still the same, whether you've got a strong tropical storm or a minimal hurricane. Now, we also have a couple pieces of video we're going to show you. I just got some video in from Panama City Beach, Florida, and let me show you that, because we also have been dealing again with a storm surge anywhere from 3 to 5 feet. So remember, a storm surge comes in ahead of a landfalling cyclone. So the surge already started this morning, early this morning, in the pre-dawn hours, and you can see that there was still some flooding impacts through parts of Panama City, and that surge will stay throughout the afternoon and start to slowly abate and go back down tonight. But what catches a lot of people off guard is that they're not prepared for the surge. They can come in relatively quickly, within 1 to 2 hours, and then they linger, and then they go back out with like a low tide, if you will. But that's not what it is. A storm surge is a wall of water on top of the ocean that comes in from the push from these cyclones as they come on shore. Our other piece of video is also in Panama City Beach. This was from this morning with some angry seas, a seagull trying to figure out his next course of action. Oftentimes mariners back in the hundreds of years ago, before we had all of the fancy weather equipment we have now, used wildlife to determine when weather was coming. And a lot of times when birds would come inland, or when they would fly south or fly away from land, it let mariners and it let people know on the islands that there was bad weather coming. So this seagull was checking things out, probably trying to figure out what he was going to be doing to spend his afternoon to get out of the wind from Fred. But it still is a good indicator of when weather is coming, when you see the birds come very far inland, or again when they fly, if they're used to seeing a cluster of wildlife, of hens, of seagulls rather, on the beach, and they fly suddenly away. That's an indication that the weather is changing, and that's indeed what we often get. So back to WSI, Matt, we'll take a look at the current warning. So there is that tropical storm warning that is up for the Florida Panhandle. There's also a flash flood watch that's up for those areas shaded in green, because there's already been so much rain in this area of the country. This is the wet season for not only Florida, but many states in the southeast. So the grounds are already pretty saturated, and it's not going to take much rain to create a flooding problem. So there is that concern that we could see some flash flooding as we head into tonight and into tomorrow. Storm surge warning, as I mentioned, is ongoing, 3 to 5 feet right in the Big Bend area. There's actually a little bit less as you go to the west and to the east, so I'll show you that as well. But that storm surge, again, primarily going to be the most impactful right at the Big Bend, and then over by Pensacola, Panama City, we're looking at a 1 to 3 foot surge, and then down towards the south, near Yankeetown, near 2 to 4 feet, and actually just south of that, about 1 to 3 feet. So that's ongoing right now, going to stay with us. And again, if you're not aware, it only takes about 18 inches of water to loft a car to make it float, and about 2 feet of water can make a car very dangerous and float in a storm surge. So hopefully people have, heeded the advice, got their cars to higher ground and got out of the surge, because those can be really, really dangerous. The arrival of the winds, of course, those started early this morning. As we head through tonight and through tomorrow, we're going to see some of those winds fan out through parts of southern Alabama, of course, and southern Georgia. It's not expected to stay tropical for very long. Fred is going to, lose its energy source, flip that switch and switch from a tropical cyclone cyclone, more to a hybrid system, but it still has that potential to bring in some high winds and those flooding rains as we head through the remainder of today and into tomorrow. And as I mentioned, leftovers of Fred are going to move up into the mid-Atlantic and then eventually up into the northeastern part of the country as we head through the end of the week. So we'll be talking about Fred for a while, and actually just while we've been on, we got a new update from the National Hurricane Center. As of 5, the media gets the coordinates and the path a couple of minutes before it's accessible to the public, and you can see that the winds are sustained now at 60, so winds down just a bit, but still a strong tropical storm. The pressure 995 millibars, moving northeast at 9, and that puts the center 25 miles northwest of Apalachicola in Florida. And then the new path as of 5 p.m. again, getting this a little bit early, and I got it, and the graphics are not totally cleaned up here because we got this live, so I apologize. There's a little bit of some of those graphics on top of each other, but generally you get the gist. So we're expecting this to stay a tropical storm through tomorrow, minimal tropical storm, and then sometime on Wednesday losing its tropical characteristics as it heads up into the mid-Atlantic and then up into the northeast by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Again, wind's not a factor for the northeast, but I am anticipating some rain, and we could see some localized flooding. Storm Prediction Center does have a slight risk up today for about 5 million people, about 7 million people at a marginal risk. Anytime we have a system that is already rotating by nature, which this is a tropical cyclone, we run the risk of tornadoes at landfall. Now, we are under a tornado watch in this area of the country as well. I have not seen any tornado warnings that have verified so far, but it's early. We still have some time and could potentially be seeing some tornadic weather as we head through these next couple of hours. So that's what I'll be watching for. Even with tropical storms, you can get tornadoes. In fact, last year we had some pretty nasty tornadoes with some landfalling tropical cyclones. So whether it's a tropical storm or a hurricane, threat does get a little stronger when the system itself is more intense, but you still can get them with minimal tropical storms. But remember, the rain bands are already rotating. They're rotating counterclockwise, and as they interact with land, remember, it's kind of shoving a cotton ball over a big piece of emery board or a nail file, if you will, and it just drags. It creates a pretty big drag in the atmosphere, and then that helps to force up some lift, and that can help rotate those rain bands up and then just at the surface, up at the mid levels, and that's where you can kind of get some rotation and get a vortex or a short-lived tornado. So that will be the issue tonight. But again, let me back this up because that played before I was ready to play. But the larger concern, again, I think is going to be some of this localized flooding, heavy rain, and the wind. I think we've already got some power outages. I didn't show that, but we do have several areas in the Big Bend area that have some power outages from Fred. And as we head through the next couple hours, you can see those heavy bands continuing to move into parts of southern Alabama near Dothan, and then up into parts of Macon and the Atlanta area. Atlanta is anticipating some pretty nasty weather tomorrow morning, and of course a lot of folks will be trying to commute tomorrow morning. Major city, major headaches, because although the winds are not anticipated to be real high, they'll probably be in the neighborhood of 30 miles an hour. That's a driving wind and you've got a tropical downpour. So it's not just like a summer thunderstorm. Tropical rains are always more intense than a summer thunderstorm because they pack a sustained wind and not just a gust that you'll get in a severe thunderstorm. So it's going to not be a fun commute tomorrow for the folks in the Atlanta area and surrounding suburbs. And then even in Macon, as I mentioned, they're going to get some pretty nasty weather too. And then as we scrub this forward, it's going to move into the parts of the Tennessee River Valley and then moving up the Blue Ridge Mountains, where there's probably going to be a fair amount of rain there. I wouldn't be surprised to see some flooding. That's also not unusual when we get a cyclone that comes in and a lot of the weather's on the east side and it hits the mountains, and that's what's called orographic lift, and that helps to make those clouds more buoyant and more bursting, if you will, pregnant, if you will, with precip, and so they are very likely to produce some flooding rains tomorrow, and into Wednesday. So it's going to be a couple of days that we'll be dealing with Fred, of course, and then we'll have to see what happens after that. Some of the longer range models, this is the QPF estimating from the Weather Prediction Center, put this out today, estimating anywhere from 5 to 7 inches of rain, and I already told you at the top of this live stream that we've already seen at least 4 inches of rain in some of those pockets. So 5 isn't easy. I'm sure we'll easily get there. Maybe some of these spots will get up to 7. We'll see if that indeed plays out as we head into the next couple of days. But it definitely bears noting that the winds with Fred probably has caught some people off guard, because a lot of people may have stopped watching Fred when it dissipated on Saturday. And even though everybody was talking about this reorganizing, a lot of times when these systems, and they see the X on their app and they don't see, they see that the system is no longer active, they stopped following it. And unfortunately, we knew that Fred was likely going to regenerate, and it did. Hopefully people were ready for Fred in the Florida Panhandle. There certainly has been a lot of weather so far today, and more expected as we head into tonight. So I'm going to zoom back in here real quick. We'll take a quick peek. And there's Mariana, by the way, which is dealing with about to get a real nasty layer of some heavy wind and rain. So the center, by the way, if you can't pick it out, it's right here. So you can see it's exposed. So this is not a closed low. So we would have to see the precip go all the way around here for this to be a closed low. But there is some high wind up in this area, as I mentioned. So the winds we already know were in the neighborhood of 70 miles an hour in the gusts. So that's enough to, knock down weak trees, branches that are susceptible will easily tumble, lawn furniture, of course. Trampolines are a huge danger in landfalling tropical systems. A lot of times people forget that. They have trampolines in their backyard. They think because they're big and bulky, they won't be airborne, and that's the exact opposite. They are huge, dangerous projectile objects because they are off the ground and the wind can get underneath them very easily and lift and loft those trampolines. So a lot of times when we get these tropical systems, we see video of on social media of trampolines in trees and, a block or two from their house. So if you have a trampoline, hopefully you've taken the precautions for this area. And again, I do think that we're going to get some more reports of some power outages. This is just starting, just have had this landfall within the last hour. So the winds will continue to impact this area for multiple hours. And that tends to be when the power lines get more vulnerable. It's when the transformers tend to blow. And that's when we start to see more impacts with people. I don't anticipate a long-term power outages with Fred. Most power companies, and especially when there's a landfalling system, power companies from around surrounding states and from the state of Florida, probably from South Florida, up all along the entire state, have come to position themselves in the Panhandle to help restore power quickly. So I wouldn't anticipate power to be out for a significant length of time, but there could be a couple of hours, and it could, in some areas, it could be into tomorrow. So hopefully folks have got their rations and they are ready for what Fred's going to deliver. Let me do a quick little volume scan on this. This was not behaving for me yesterday, or day before yesterday. I was taking a look at this. Oh yeah, it's showing it. So I just wanted to show you the cloud tops on some of these bigger ones. So this one's this particular cell that I'm over, which is just to the south and west of Mariana. That one's, you can see it there. It's just about 32,000 feet up in the atmosphere. If I drag this around, you can kind of see some spikes there. So those are pretty decent storms. When you get the tropical cyclones, you don't tend to get those 50, 60,000 feet, unless you're talking about like a Cat 4, Cat 5 hurricane. You don't tend to get those really, really high cumulonimbus, but a 32,000 foot rain cloud or a thunderstorm cloud is pretty decent. And this one, as you can tell, it's definitely putting down some heavy rain. You don't generally speaking get hail in these systems, so I'm not looking for hail cores by any stretch with this, but sometimes we can get some of that, like as I mentioned, some of those brief spin ups, and those can be rotating. Let me take this one off. Let me take a quick look here. We'll just do a quick little scan, see if I see anything else interesting. We'll do a quick look. Let's see, maybe this guy over here. Let's see what this one does. This one, and this is the Tallahassee radar. That one's that's even less. That's a little lower. That's about 24,000 feet, looks like. So, but still, significant thunderstorms, these are pretty high up in the atmosphere, and again, have the potential to put down some pretty heavy rain. So as we head through tonight, I'm anticipating more flooding issues and possibly some wind issues as well. Let me take a quick look at the wind speeds, and then we'll take a look and see if there's any questions out there. There's a look at, and again, a lot of folks were asking what the state of Florida was going to get. And as you can see, most of the state of Florida, by the way, is dry. There are definitely some feeder bands. We definitely have some outer rotation here. Right in here, we're getting some pretty nice tropical downpours. We're going to see some of that rotate over the Tampa Bay area and up into Cedar Key, up into Jacksonville. We're seeing a fair amount, but generally speaking, a large portion of the Sunshine State, even down into the Keys, is doing pretty good because they're on the east side. They're on the drier side of the cyclone. Up in here, the northeast side is a different scenario. That's why all this nasty weather is going up through South Carolina, up into Georgia, Tennessee, even North Carolina getting in on this action. Even though Fred's way down here, remember the circulation is a much broader, larger area, and that tends to pull those tropical bands right out of the Gulf and right out of the Atlantic and draw them over to the U.S. So there's been a fair amount of that going on today. And as I scan up in here, you can see that there's some pretty decent rain that South Carolina has gotten today, and even into North Carolina, some heavier embedded rain as well. So as we get into the afternoon, remember the track is going to generally start to move towards the north and the east. So we'll see that start to change over probably sometime tomorrow. And that's when, it'll kind of be a different ball game for this area of the country. So Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, up into Northeast, that's by say Thursday, Friday. So it's got a couple of days. But this whole big swath, this whole big beltway is expected to get some impact or at least some type of weather from Fred. So hopefully it won't be too bad by then. And if you need the rain, I hope you get it. But the concern for us tonight right now is those winds. So look at that, Apalachicola. Remember when we started this live stream, it was 73 the gust, now down to 36. So that was as of 5 p.m. A gust now at 45 in Panama City, 35 in Destin, 33 in Marietta, and 36 in Tallahassee. So a couple of cities there are not reporting the gust, and that doesn't mean the wind gauge is broken. That usually means that it's below the threshold of 30 miles an hour. Usually that's what that means. So let me take a quick little bit. Lots of folks on YouTube, so thanks for joining us. We got Christopher in the house. Of course, Sandy Rose. What would we do without Sandy? She's here. Hey, Sandy. We've got PR Case Files joining us. Let's see. I'm just checking to see if we've got anybody that's in this area. Let's see. Greg Bass says his family lives in Panama City, and they're still dealing with the effects from Hurricane Michael. I was up there for that hurricane. That was devastating hurricane. Thankfully, this is nowhere near what the level of what Michael was, or Ivan. Someone else here is talking about PR Case Files is talking about Ivan was also incredibly destructive to the Florida Panhandle. Penny in the house. Love to see Penny. She's a great supporter of the app as well. All right, just I don't see anyone directly in that area. They probably got bigger fish to fry than to join our live stream. but anyway, I'll just take a quick look here, a couple more, see if we see anything. Someone's saying here, I see in the chat, someone said, I just never seem to get the warnings. I can't tell who that is. Let's see what. I just never see that many warnings. I'm not sure what that means. I'll have to go back and look. But if you don't have your notifications turned on, make sure you have those turned on, you guys, because I always beat this dead horse that the best two ways you can keep yourself safe is NOAA weather radio with a battery. Those are a surefire way that you will get every warning that's issued from NOAA. And your weather app, your MyRadar weather app. You have to have your notifications turned on. Make sure you have your watches and warnings toggled on in the layers, and that will notify you. And you should be getting push notifications when rain is in your area, or if you have severe weather in your area and you have your notifications turned on, you should be getting alerted to when that weather is coming your way. All right, you guys, I think that's going to do it for now. Just to keep you updated, again, the new information from the National Hurricane Center, Fred is just a bit weaker, still a very strong tropical storm with sustained winds at 60 miles an hour. It is our 6th named storm of the 2021 hurricane season, expected to move north through parts of Alabama and Georgia as we head through the overnight tonight, and then up into the Carolinas, already impacting the Carolinas and Tennessee, and then move up into the Blue Ridge after that, and then headed up into the Northeast by the second half of the week. Will not be anywhere near the strength it is now when it gets up into the Northeast or the Mid-Atlantic, but it is expected to bring a lot of weather. So we'll continue to keep you updated here. We'll have another live update here in a couple of hours. Hurricane Center has been great, giving us updates every couple of hours now. We get our full suite of info from them every 6 hours, at 5 a.m. Eastern, 11 a.m., 5 p.m. So we'll get it. We just got the 5 p.m. just while we were on the air. During this live stream. So you saw the new path, the new information, wind 60, 25 miles northwest of Apalachicola. And then we'll get some more info from them at 8 p.m. Hurricane hunters don't really do recon once these systems make landfall, but we'll still get plenty of data. Now that it's on land, we have a ground-based radar, and we have, of course, GOES 16 satellite data that will really be able to help pinpoint what Fred does over these next couple hours. But that'll do it for now. Thank you guys for stopping in and watching. Thanks for everybody that's been joining us this afternoon. Again, we'll have another update tonight. For now, I'm Chief Meteorologist Leslie Hudson. Stay safe out there, you guys. We'll see you soon.